Okay, Pilar, I was looking over your brainstorming handout.
No, I think
Yeah.
I
And
need to be foolish.
okay, so the first thing I wanted to ask is if you were able to find any primary research articles, that is, other articles that relate to something related to authentic material
Yes.
or the use of oral production in the language classroom.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
I want to focus on listening, speaking, not listening skills. Sorry, developing listening skills.
Okay, listening
Yeah.
skills.
Mhm.
So not so much speaking,
Yeah,
just listening.
Uh-huh.
And okay, so and authentic material.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I have here more or less
Okay.
like it's gonna.
All right. So the effectiveness of authentic and non-authentic audiovisual materials for developing listening skills. All right. Now, a couple of things here. When we use the word effectiveness, we are automatically now thinking like I would ask, how would you measure effectiveness? So you might be thinking more like measuring learning. Because if something works, if it's effective, it's only effective if students are learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be careful not to use that term, since we probably are not going to be focusing so much on learning, like measuring learning,
Yes.
which might go beyond the scope of our work this semester, but maybe looking, choosing some different question words, okay, that might, might be a little bit better. Thinking here in terms of this question. So I wish to learn more about non-authentic, let's see, authentic. Yeah, okay, so you also have here authentic versus non-authentic. So
Or can, instead of effective, can I say the impact that it has on students?
it's kind of the same.
Yes?
It's kind of the same.
Mm-hmm.
How about, um, let's see, are you wanting to compare authentic and non-authentic audiovisual?
Yes.
All right. So what type, can you give me some examples of either authentic or non-authentic audiovisual materials that you might want to observe?
Well, for the non-authentic, the audios that comes maybe in the course books, sometimes we have also video resources. And for the authentic material, I was thinking about songs or maybe sitcoms, videos from sitcoms.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. So are you focusing both on audio and video, or just audio, or just video, or?
So you think it's best to choose just one?
Well, it depends on what you want to observe. Here's the thing. We have in the second page of our handout.
Oh, yeah.
All right. The reason I'm asking all these questions is because you need to decide on what you want to examine. All right. So that's basically what we need to figure out, and hopefully today, is what do you want to examine? Do you want to examine the use of video, and look at two different classes, or do you want to maybe observe one class with the use of audio, and then another day the use of video, and then with that audio and video, is it authentic or non-authentic or both? Like, these are all different things we need to or you need to decide, so that when you do answer this question or the statement, you finish this statement, I wish to examine this thing, it's not too much.
Yes.
Okay, and it's narrow enough that you can really investigate and you can measure it, and it's possible, it's practical, it's something that you can complete this semester. So, so a lot of these, the right answer here is, first of all, what you're interested in. Second is if you can find other research that's similar, right, that you can base your literature review on. Perhaps find instruments that you can use to collect your data, perhaps even adapt research questions that you can use for your own research.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I have here some research about more or less the same topic.
Okay.
For this one is using authentic material to develop listening comprehension.
Okay, so let's take a look here. So, using authentic materials to develop listening comprehension in the English classroom. All right. And so let's take a look here. Is this? Oh, so this is a This is a dissertation, right? Let's see here. All right, so here's some ideas that they use here. They're talking about influences of authentic materials. Now that might be beyond your scope to do something like that. This is a thesis, probably at least a year or more long document. But it also has a secondary purpose of identifying learning strategies to use used by ESL students experiencing authentic listening text, and to determine the influences of the authentic materials on the students' attitudes. Now there might be something there that you can use. Okay, so with keywords here, certain learning strategies using authentic listening texts. Okay, maybe just focusing on audio only. And determine the influences of the materials on the attitudes. So we're not looking at the influences on learning, but the influence the materials have on the students' attitudes, which I think too is something that you could investigate. So learning strategies, the effects of authentic materials only. Notice we're not focusing on authentic and non-authentic.
All right.
Just authentic. On their attitudes. Okay, so this is an example. This is what I mean by looking at as some research that someone else has done and getting some ideas, thinking about things that you might be able to do. So these are some possibilities. And you could that right what we just mentioned would be enough to focus on if that's something that you are interested in. Maybe find one or two other articles, primary research articles that have looked at those learning strategies and maybe the influences on the materials on students' attitudes. Right? Now we haven't talked much about pedagogy, but you could also look at or try to find other research maybe that teachers have, maybe some techniques or methods or even specific materials of teachers using authentic materials to promote listening skills. Okay, so that's another something that you can look into, but that I think that's an option. Okay.
Well, I have another one.
Okay. And while you're getting that up here, so if we go here to step 2 in our handout, I wish to examine. An option could be learning strategies and the effects authentic materials have on students' attitudes. So you're going to be examining student attitudes and specific learning strategies. Yeah.
I don't know if this one is complete or just
Okay, I'm sorry, could you go? Yeah, let me read it. So the question, put forward in the study was to pinpoint the impact of authentic versus non-authentic listening materials on the listening comprehension of Iranian EFL students. All right. After random selection, 80 upper intermediate students from Iran took part of the study. The participants participated in 2 experimental treatments. All right. During 1 semester, they were instructed in listening. The results revealed that the participants who were instructed on the basis of authentic radio tapes had gained a higher degree of listening comprehension. Now, they are specifically looking and measuring at learning. And this is what I would suggest that you not do, simply because we don't have a whole lot of time to really focus that much on learning and to see if they're actually learning. But what you might be able to do, see, given the results of the experiment, the tentative extrapolations could be that some of the assumptions about the futility of teaching authentic materials should be re-examined. Improves. All right, so yeah, you might be able to use part of this in your literature review, okay? But it may be going beyond the scope of your own research because, it's focusing a little bit more on learning. But you can take this and maybe let's go to the conclusions and see what we can get. Take care of it. Let's see. All right, implications. All right, so here's an example. It says here, a classroom implication is that authentic material should be implemented in any foreign and second language classroom. We believe that the real and unmodified materials are more useful to prepare students to face real English interaction. All right, so here we have this interaction in using authentic listening. Normal speed and tone paves the way for better understanding. So you can, when you look and you're looking for other teachers who are using authentic materials, and these are things that you might be looking for: normal speed of input, some form of interaction if they have to listen to something and then interact in some way. These are all things that you can include in your literature review and perhaps look for, or perhaps include in your study, depending on what you want to focus on. All right, so even though you're not going to be focusing on learning, you can take some of this information and see if it's something that you want to include in your own analysis. In this case, looking at English interaction, or the types of authentic listening that you want, that you're going to research. Okay. Another classroom implication is that both authentic and should be provided. Okay, they mentioned something about native speakers here, so these are all things that you need to kind of think about whenever when you do your literature review, and things to be looking for. Because, for example, if you're looking for listening, are they going to use American version English, or is it going to be British English? Is it going to be some other variation? And these are all things that you're going to observe when you collect your data. So I think these are articles that you can use, okay, in your literature review. But just be careful not to focus too much on the actual measurement of learning. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let me see.
Now, another strategy you can think of instead of learning strategies, you could also think in terms of pedagogical strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they have strategies during the actual listening event, and post strategies.
All right.
And you could also
Yes.
look at that.
Well, there's another abstract here, but in this page I only could find the abstract. There's the written thesis is not here.
Okay, because you'll need to be able to find the actual
Mm-hmm.
thesis. Nowadays, technologies are.
Because well, this was more or less what I wanted to do, to compare two classes, one maybe with authentic material and the other one with non-authentic material, and then to see like the students' reactions towards.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The problem with that is there's so many variables, and when you ask a student, "Did you like this class or not?" and materials is one part, but there are many variables,
factors, yes.
and you're talking about two different types of groups,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm not opposed to compare and contrast anything, but I'd rather you choose something that in a context where there's not so many, they call them confounding variables that you really can't control, that really are beyond the scope of your research, and it starts to get like, well, what about this? Maybe so it's be careful with that. I think so far the first option, like if you wanted to choose something like strategies and authentic material and teaching, it could be teaching strategies if you want to focus on teaching strategies, and then the impact of the material on the students' attitudes. I mean, right, that's enough for you to investigate that you could perhaps look at two different types of groups, and you could compare two different types of listening or video or whatever you choose to look at, and you can do some sort of comparison there, looking at the impact of the students' perception, how they feel about using certain materials, perhaps. But just try to find contexts where, again, there's not a lot of extra variables that could interfere. So here you can say, I wish to examine students' attitudes on authentic material, like you have here, and perhaps another component would be to examine strategies, either learning strategies or teaching strategies. But it's all going to depend on what you find. So when you in the literature, you're going to look up different types of strategies. Now, the unit of analysis you need to think about, and hopefully within this week and next week, try to come up with a unit of analysis. So are you going to be looking at groups, like two groups? That would be, the group would be the unit of analysis. Or are you going to be looking at a certain activity type with this authentic material, and you're looking at different activities from one teacher, for example? Then the unit of analysis would be the activity. All right. So you need to kind of think about what's the chunk of that you're going to analyze, and then that way it'll be a little bit clearer about what you want to focus on. Okay. And it sounds like we're going to be doing mainly a qualitative research. Perhaps a case study, depends on the unit of analysis. So we need to know if you're going to do a phenomenology, or some sort of case study, or discourse analysis. Those are things that you need to decide fairly quickly, and yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I think that should get us closer. Okay. All right. Now, if you don't like strategies, that's fine. Choose something else. But the idea here is that we're focusing on some sort of, in this case, material, and either strategy, or if you want to focus on one of the abilities, we're focusing on listening now. So we're listening. If you want to focus on listening, Yeah, that's fine. So we just need to make sure that that's clear in the thesis statement whenever you start developing your literature review. Now make sure that in your literature review you start to upload that in the template that you created in the document in Google Drive.
Yes.
And so, so I can start looking at that as soon as you have time to upload that, so we can talk about that next class, next session.
Well, I have a question.
Mhm.
In the video that you uploaded to Canvas, you said that we can use the lit review that we made on academic writing?
Yes, you can use it as long as we're addressing everything they were talking about.
I already have some information because my academic writing was about authentic material, so maybe some of the things that I have there may be.
Yes, you can use that information that you have from another class, and if you want to copy and paste it over, and then start making changes, that's fine. I won't look at it and give you feedback until you are ready for me to look at it. So if you want me to look, and I would recommend that I look at it and we talk about it before the due date for the literature review, so that we can. But I'm not going to just go in and look, because I understand a lot of you are going to be copying, pasting, and perhaps changing a lot of stuff. So I'm not going to be making comments on things that that you already are going to be changing or not even using. So yeah, I mean, go ahead and move everything over, start cleaning it up, and then at any time that you want me to look at something, either send me an email in Canvas or tell, we can talk about it in our tutoring session. But the main thing right now still is this worksheet. I mean, we're not finished with this worksheet in the sense that we really want to narrow down our topic. I want you to take what we've talked about today, look at your literature review, look at any other articles that you think are relevant, and really think about the second page too. The second page, and obviously the research questions. We need to, and what I would do is, in the literature review at the very end, when you have an idea of your research questions, go ahead and put those in there. You don't have to, have a formal paragraph. Just put it in there so you have it, and then I know too what you're thinking about for your research questions. Okay, so we can have it fairly clear on the thesis statement, the research questions, and the second page here, the unit, what you're going to examine, the unit of analysis, and more or less the research designs that you're thinking about. So ideally we need to have this for next session, so then we can really start looking at the organization of your literature review, that is the argument. Okay, so this would be like the first step, is kind of try to see what the focus is, and then we can see how we want to organize your literature review. Como es? Okay, so is this something that you feel you want to focus on, like these strategies, or are you thinking about something else?
I think maybe the strategies.
Okay, do you think you have some articles that talk a little bit about either teaching or learning strategies?
I need to look
okay.
for some.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's leave it at that, and then for next week we'll talk again about the organization of your literature review. Okay. If you're stuck and you're really not sure about the research questions for this week, see me before next week if you have questions, or send me a question in Canvas, and that way hopefully next week we can start looking at the organization. Okay. Well, all right.
Thank you.
I'll leave you this. This is your sheet, and what else? Do you have any questions about Canvas, about getting around Canvas, or?
No, I think it's not. Well, it's easy
reflections?
to manage that.
Okay. Alrighty.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right. You're welcome.